Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the first video on the reasonable standard. And the purpose of this channel is to take an objective look at current events, and we will try to take what we call a reasonable standard. What a reasonable person would look at an event. We'll try not to sway too far left, we'll try not to sway too far right. It's just kind of try to be reasonable with current events and analyze the situation. And I think a good starting point and something that's super hot topic is I want to talk about what Bud Light could have done, should have done, or what they could do moving forward in light of the controversy. Now, the purpose of this video isn't to go in depth into what happened, but as a quick summary, a few months ago, there was some sort of marketing campaign. I don't think we know exactly what it was, but a can was sent to a trans activist, Dylan Mulvaney. Someone's very popular, that's very hot in social media right now. And a Instagram post was posted. Now, there was a lot of pushback. You had Kid Rock shooting the cans. You had celebrities taking the left side. You had celebrities taking the right side. But overall, in light of what happened here, and in light of what happened just previous to that with their former marketing campaign manager who kind of put down their consumers, that kind of was that straw that broke the camel's back. And the result of this for the next few months was a complete boycott of Bud Light, to the point where they've lost tens of billions of dollars. They've lost market share. They're lost their ranking. And you can arguably say they're permanently damaged from the situation. So the question is, what could they have done? What should they have done? Now, what they did was absolutely nothing. I think they may have tweeted once or twice after it directly happened, but they completely shut down. They stopped tweeting for a few months, and every time they tweeted, they got blasted. And I think that's directly related to the fact that they shut down. The moment they shut down their Twitter, they didn't shut it down. The moment they stopped tweeting, you knew the moment they opened up, the floodgates would hit. I think what they should have done was issue some apology from the CEO directly. Now, they did ultimately apologize. I think it was recently, a few months after, their CEO, former CIA, Brendan Whitworth, went on to CBS, one of the morning events, and apologized. And that was simply way too long. What they needed to do was immediately come to a decision. They needed to decide after the fact has happened. The moment there was this boycott, the moment there was this reaction, the moment that there was this pushback, they had to decide, are we going to side with the left? Are we going to side with the right? Or can we kind of play the middle? And they tried really hard to play the middle, and they didn't definitively say anything. I think those on the right, I think it's being categorized that way, right? The people that are boycotting are generally considered right. You can make an argument that they're not necessarily right people, they don't actually sit on the right wing. They're not necessarily conservative, but they're just general population, including left side people that are just kind of quote unquote sick and tired of having this narrative shoved down their throat. I think it was just a flurry of things that happened that made them the guinea pig at this point, or made them the scapegoat. You had the pushback on Pride Month, because I think we have got to the point where the population is, again, kind of sick of hearing that message, for right or for wrong. You had the fight between a left and a right, between the whole protect the children. And then you add to the mix someone that is so polarizing, Dylan Mulvaney. And I'm not going to go into details in terms of if he, she, they, I'm sorry for messing up the pronoun, no disrespect is intended. If Dylan specifically harmed them in this case versus Dylan did what they were supposed to do as an influencer. They received a can, they made a post. So it's tough to blame Dylan in this specific case, but ultimately, and I think both sides blame it on Bud Light and their strategy of making fun of their consumers, calling them frat boys essentially, and then taking the middle ground. So once they took the middle ground, they lost respect from the right, they lost respect from the left. Now, so I want to take some time to kind of talk about what they could have done and what they should do moving forward. I do think the brand is irreversibly damaged. The question is, how much can you salvage at this point? So what does an apology look like, and what should it entail? And again, Brendan Whitworth went to CBS and gave kind of like I would say, what we expected, but the answer was kind of weak. But you imagine it, right? If you were in charge of Bud Light right now, what can you do? A lot of people are saying a lot of things. A lot of people are saying he has to step down. A lot of people say you have to pick a side. And a lot of people are saying, you know what, just scrap the whole company and sell it all, right? But let's try to be reasonable. If you were a business-minded person, does it make sense to force your CEO to kind of step down? Does it make sense to kind of just throw the company away? And does it actually make sense to pick a side? But I think there's still a middle ground here somewhere that perhaps they can try. And obviously, I don't have the perfect answer. I don't know if any of us have the perfect answers. I think a lot of us have vengeful answers. For example, when people are out there saying Brandon Whitworth, the CEO, has to step down, I don't think that's a perfect solution. Because what does that gain? I think that's just a vengeful thinking. That's an angry thought, right? I get the idea, the whole idea the buck stops here, that the CEO's in charge. I get that. Ultimately, it's the CEO's fault. I get that. But him stepping down, is that going to fix anything? I don't think it does. It's not that anybody's going to say, well, now that he's stepped down, let's go back and reconsider Bud Light. I don't think that's the case. You may get a few people to do that, but ultimately I don't think it's a solution. I think they do, or they should have, given an apology at some point. And the apology easily could have sounded something like this, right? We could steal some of the words that he said. He could have said, and I think he said, the conversation has left what we done best. You know, here at Bud Light and Anheuser-Busch, our job is to really make the best beer that we can, and we got distracted, and our message was lost. I don't think that any of our consumers were surprised. I don't think any of our consumers disagree with the fact that we support the LGBTQ community, but perhaps the message, the medium, and the way that we presented it was misrepresented. Perhaps the way that we presented it was misconstrued. But again, this lies on me as a CEO. This lies on us as a marketing team. We should have done our market research. We should have understood how to convey this message. We should have understood how we were to promote this. Again, it is no surprise to you guys. We've been supporting the LGBTQ community for years now. You guys know that. We've been supporting the Gay Pride Parade. We've been allies for several years now, and that's never been a problem. But I think in this given case, we did not read the temperature of the room enough. I think there was another way to approach this. And again, this is not saying that we don't support the LGBTQ community, but I think perhaps we could have done some market research in terms of what is the way to send this message. And that message is Bud Light is for everybody. We as a beer company want everybody to enjoy our beer. We don't care if you're left. We don't care if you're right. We don't care what race you are. We don't care what your sexual orientation is. We just want to make the best beer for everybody to enjoy. And I think our marketing team tried to do that, but we fell off the mark just a little bit. I think with the tweak of the message, the tweak of the medium, the tweak of the campaign, I think we still could have got that message across without the way that it was construed. So again, I'm not passing blame here. Again, as a CEO, the buck stops with me. But again, I'm asking for you guys to give me that second chance to prove what we are, to focus on what we do, and that is make America's best beer. So even something like that, something simple like that could have worked, I think, where you come out and say, I'm sorry, I messed up, we messed up, the message is always there, but we delivered it wrong. And I think that if he had just came out and said that at the beginning, I think a lot of this could have nipped in the bud. You tell those people that are upset that the message was sent out wrong. But at the same time, you're not lying because you are supporting the LGBTQ. And it's true. And historically, that's never been an issue, right? You look at the past years. You look at last year, last June, and all the gay pride parades. Nobody has an issue with that. I think it was just this specific campaign, whatever it was. I don't know if you can call it a campaign as well, right? A can was sent out. Maybe they should have involved Dylan another way. But ultimately, the buck stops with the CEO and stops with the marketing team in terms of how do we incorporate this into our messaging that resonates with the consumers. And that's where they dropped the ball. Now, again, I'm not saying word for word that was the best apology, but I think if he was to say something to that effect, that would have eased a lot of tension early on. And in terms of if I was a CEO, again, same thing. If I was asked to step down, I think the appropriate answer is something to the effect of, you know what? I know there's been a lot of discussion in terms of me stepping down. I've listened, I've heard, I've read the tweets. A lot of people are asking for me to step down, but I don't know if that is best for the company. I think historically, if you look back, I've been able to help this company grow and become number one in the marketplace over the last few years. Yes, was there a mistake made now? It was. Does the buck stop with me? It does. But I will do everything that I can, continue to serve everybody, serve the market, serve the community to get us back to where we are. If it is the case that the shareholders and the directors feel that I'm incapable to lead this company, then yes, at that point I would step down. If I knew definitively if I could make this all go away by stepping down, let's say if I knew that I could step down and this all goes away and we go back to where we were, then of course I would do that for the company. But until then, I'm going to keep on working, keep on doing what I do best, keep on doing what we do best. We're going to try to win our customers back by making good product, by doing things right, and really proving the American way. I think something that works if I was the CEO. And it is a bit of a PR, I get it. But ultimately, this is what you need to do in the business. At this point, it's kind of a lose-lose. But the one thing you can't do is not communicate with your consumers. You can't lose touch with them. That's why Twitter is so important. That's why social media is so important. That's why it's so important that you keep in touch with the individuals. And while we're on this topic of imaginary conversations, right? Like, let's say the CEO goes into a conversation and he gets asked like tough questions. Tough questions could be, look, Brandon, look, you're the CEO of Anheuser-Busch. Moving forward, what do you think? What is your stance on transgender sports? Again, this is a very tough question for the CEO to answer in light of the current circumstances. But he's got to do what he does best, right? Go back to the basic. And he could say something like, he could play it cool. He could laugh and be like, haha, you know what? I know you guys want a good soundbite from me, but me and the company right now, we're going to be focused on making good beer. We are going to leave the sports. We're going to leave all that other stuff to the doctors and the experts to answer that tough question. But one thing you can count on is the fact that if there is a sport, then Bud Light would be involved. Again, we're going to be supportive of the LGBTQ community. We don't care who you are and what you are. We just want you to enjoy our beer. And if you happen to be at a sporting event, we will be there. But I know you guys are looking for a soundbite. I'll leave it over to the doctors and the sports associations to answer that, because moving forward, we know we're going to focus on what we do best, and that's make great beer. Even something like that, I think, is a good PR type answer where you don't necessarily have to commit, right? You're a beer company. That's what the consumers are saying. That's what, if you read the tweets, if you read the market, they're basically saying, you're a beer company, do what you do best. We don't need you to be political. And this video can go on much longer, right? We could talk about what are the risks on the ESG side, right? Maybe I'll talk about a little bit of that. The reason why you're seeing all these companies struggle with ESG is that a lot of the large investment funds, capital funds, investment firms like the BlackRocks and all that, right? They're really focused on ESG. And in order for you to get their money, you have to have a high ESG score. Now you're saying, why is that important, right? And I see this all in videos. People are saying, why is it important? Where's the money coming from? You have these funds that are worth hundreds of billions of dollars. They will invest in your company if they consider you to be a good company. And if they think you're a good company, they'll give you money for a lot cheaper. Maybe they'll lend it to you for whatever it is, 5%, 6%, 7%. But if they deem you to be a low ESG score, that interest rate will be higher because for two reasons. One, they deem you to be higher risk. They deem you to be a bad business. And three, they generally just like you. So a company with a better ESG score could get investment money, perhaps at whatever it is, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8%. But if you have a low ESG score, you're paying interest, could be 8, 9, 10, 11%. So that's why you're seeing these companies vying for this ESG score. It doesn't necessarily mean that the company feels this way. We'll never know. But we know this is the driving force right now because of the BlackRocks, because of all the large investment firms that are controlling all this money. Again, I don't know if my PR answers or my suggested answers for CEO would have worked in this case, but I think there is going to be some jockeying behind the scenes. I think the priority one right now for them is to win back the consumers. And I really don't know if they can do this. They can look at a few things, right? There's a few strategies. There's a do-nothing strategy, and they tried it, and it really didn't work. There was this apologizing strategy, but that required them to do very quickly. And then long-term, they've got to decide what they want to do. Do they need a completely new image? Do they forego this Bud Light and make a new image? Or do they keep Bud Light right now and launch a new product, right? Maybe on the side, they launch another super American, super hardcore, patriotic brand that people can get behind. But right now, it's very tough. So I would not want to be sitting inside the Anheuser-Busch sitting in the Bud Light office right now. I mean, I kind of do because this kind of stuff interests me, but but it is a difficult battle for them to fight right now. It's affecting a lot of people. It's affecting the employees. It's affecting all third-party distributions. But I get it. The buck stops with the CEO, and we'll see what happens, right? I'll probably have more videos about this in terms of the other points of view. I'm thinking about making a point of view on what Dylan did right, what he did wrong, if anything, and how I generally feel that he played this situation correctly. Being on the side that he's on, kind of left out to dry by Bud Light and Anheuser-Busch, but I'll leave that for another video. So hope you guys enjoy my video. I would really appreciate it if you guys subscribed and give me a like. This is my first video. Hopefully you guys can kind of see my style, my stance of how I try to be reasonable about this. But I do think that this is a very interesting topic, so you guys. So do me a favor, hit a like, hit a subscribe, and I'll see you guys in future videos. Thanks, guys.